he said we're all good. Back there.
Good evening. We're going to call the commission meeting for the City of Coffeyville to order for Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. We will have roll call by Melissa.
Commissioner Edwards,
Here.
Commissioner Hendricks,
Here.
Vice Mayor Van Oster,
Here.
Mayor Maples,
Here.
and Commissioner Faulkner is absent this evening.
All right, we will now have our invocation by Pastor Carl Dawson of the Lighthouse Church of God. Would everybody please stand?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you tonight asking for divine guidance for these who are serving our city, wisdom that every decision made will bring growth and blessing to our city. We honor you as the supreme guide in our city. May you place your hand of protection on every first responder in this community. We thank you for all that you're doing in our city. May you continue to bless, prosper, and bring our city the growth that is needed. And may the decisions made tonight be honoring to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you.
Y'all have a blessed meeting.
All right, we will now have a review of our agenda.
I think there's some changes that we are wanting, so I will make a motion. I move to amend the agenda to remove the ordinance S 25-02 from old business, add an executive session to discuss confidential data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships, and to add an executive session to discuss matters deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Mayor Maples, to amend the agenda to remove the ordinance S-25-02 from old business, add an executive session to discuss confidential data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships, and add an executive session to discuss matters deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. Commissioner Hendricks,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Van Oster,
Aye.
Mayor Maples,
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
We will move on to our consent agenda. City Commission meeting minutes for Tuesday, April the 8th, 2025. The Special Commission meeting minutes for Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. And the 2025 Appropriation Ordinance number AO-25-08 in the amount of $2,239,323.43. I think we have some details on the consent agenda.
Yes, I have some things off the appropriation ordinance to bring out. We have Ashland Tree Expert Company, $10,200. Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. These are some professional consulting services on 3 different items, $6,845. BG Consultants. These are the engineer and design. They are for 5 different projects, and they total $32,111.18. We have City of Salina. This is for the 2009 Spartan 100-foot aerial truck that we had approved of buying for the new ladder truck for the fire department, $450,000. Clint Perkins Construction. This has to do with some emergency home repair and a grant that someone got that they hired him to do some work for, $4,935. Coffeyville Regional Medical Center. This is their monthly sales tax distribution, $84,448. Cosgrove Guttering. This is emergency home repair that someone had done, $1,500. Cross Discipline Engineering. This is pay estimate number 30 On the substation upgrade, $6,701. Land and Public Finance, this is payment number 22 on the new golf court lease that we, cart lease that we have, excuse me, $2,240. Delta Dental of Kansas, these are dental claims, $6,138.90. Fraser Fencing, this is for a fence that we had put up in an area at the aquatic center for some safety purposes, $4,629.82. G&G Dozer, this is for contract with them for nuisance cleanup on 2 different properties, $1,500. Remember, that comes out of our trash money that we get, and that's our taxpayers paying to clean up some other properties. Jackie Cooper Nissan, this is the 2022 Chevrolet Silverado we got for the wastewater department. Jackson Civil LLC, this is for the lagoon liner repair that we had at the wastewater plant, $134,946. Kansas Municipal Utilities, this is $3,000 for the expenditure of 6 people from the electric department to go for some tech classes. We have Key Equipment and Supply. This is the leaf attachment that will go on to our new street sweeper that we have, which hopefully we'll be able to use that, I don't know about now, but this fall, $79,698.75. KMGA Gas Supply Operating Fund, $150,248. Cone Construction Services, this is payment number 2 on the multi-use trail construction project, $22,258. Montgomery County Fair Association, this is for the rodeo office construction that we had talked about at the first of the year, $150,000. Patriot Buick GMC, we have 2 vehicles on here that we had discussed purchasing several months ago. One is a 2020 Hyundai for $25,000. That goes for code enforcement. The other vehicle is a 2021 Chevrolet Silverado for the facilities department that we have now. Patriot Chevrolet, this is for an admin vehicle. Chevrolet Trax 2025, $25,000. Security First Title, $128,696. This has to do with the purchase of the 5 acres that we did on Gibson Street that we had talked about. Stephen Trophies and Custom Embroidery, this is for our wellness initiative incentives that we have here, $3,672.41. Summit Fire and Security, this is for 3rd floor here at City Hall, the fire system, $11,456. Worldwide Diesel Power, this is pay number 9, 10, 11, and 12 combined. This has to do for all the maintenance we're doing out there on the generators on the new gen plant. It's a total of $114,226.54. And then we had payroll of $401,976.87. And again, that's just a few of the highlights. There's a lot others in there. But that's what it takes to run our city.
All right, if there's no questions, I move to approve items 1 and 2, 3 of the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mayor Maples, seconded by Vice Mayor Van Oster to approve items 1 through 3 of the consent agenda as presented. Vice Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Okay. 2025 Appropriation Ordinance Number AO-25-08A for Ishams and Lieberts for $20.78.
Move to approve item 4 of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Edwards, seconded by Commissioner Hendricks to approve item 4 of the consent agenda as presented. Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Van Oster.
Abstain.
Okay, moving on to comments from public. Any citizen desiring to address the commission shall be recognized, advance to the podium, state his or her name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes unless extended by a vote of the majority of the commission. The commission does not hear matters involving litigation or city personnel. The commission does not take action on subjects not on the agenda unless unusual or hardship conditions exist. Citizens may address the commission on agenda items as they are brought to the floor. Do we have any comments from the public? Okay. We will move on to our regular agenda items, public hearings, special presentations, and proclamations. I have a proclamation declaring May 9th, 2025 as Child Daycare Provider Day in Coffeyville, Kansas, and I will read. Whereas Child Care Aware of America and other organizations nationwide are recognizing child care providers on this day, and whereas the child care system supports children's growth, development, and educational advancement and creates a positive economic impact for families and communities, and whereas child care providers are essential to the health of our communities by fostering welcoming spaces, support working families, and create positive enrichment environments where children can develop lifelong skills. And whereas Coffeyville, Kansas recognizes that child care has been and continues to be a lifeline for families, communities, and the economy. Whereas support for affordable, accessible, high-quality child care represents a worthy commitment to help families work, support children's healthy development and learning, and keep our economy growing. Now, therefore, I, Deborah Maples, Mayor of Coffeyville, Kansas, hereby proclaim May the 9th, 2025 as Provider Appreciation Day in Coffeyville and urge all of our citizens to recognize child care providers for their important work and how valuable they are for our communities. Thank you to all of them. Okay, moving on, we have no old business. We will now move on to new business. Item 1, discussion and action to make an appointment to the Coffeyville Public Library Board of Trustees. City Clerk Melissa Carter will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, the 5-member Coffeyville Public Library Board of Trustees has 1 vacancy available for a term from April 30th, 2025 to April 30th, 2029. I did put in the staff report this was an unfinished term. That was a mistake. This is a full term starting April 30th. For 4 years. Notice of the opening was placed on the city's website, Facebook, Channel 13, and ran in the Montgomery County Chronicle for 2 weeks. I received 2 applications. Diane Ernest is unable to be here this evening, but she asked me to share the following. She has returned to her hometown and would like to give back to her community. She remembers spending many hours within the library as a child, loving the environment and the community. Promoting literacy has been important to her, and she'd like to dedicate her time to finding ways to engage young adults in reading, and the library board would give her the opportunity to work with others, making the library a destination in Coffeyville. Our other applicant, Nicole Nee, is here in attendance and would be happy to answer any questions you have.
You want to come on up?
It's interrogation time.
Yeah.
No, we wouldn't do that.
Hi.
Hi.
No.
So, do I sell myself?
Pretty much.
You know what?
Just why you would like to
Why do you
serve on
wanna
the
be
board.
Why would you like to be on the library board?
Okay, sorry. Dealing with allergies is really, really bad.
Yeah.
I just moved back into the area. I was a foster kid growing up in the state of Kansas. My dad committed suicide, and my mom was found incapable of caring for me. So this is my way of giving back because the library was always a safe haven for me. I would go there and escape, and I would go to many little rundown, rinkety libraries, such as the library in Toronto, Kansas, the one in the back of the post office in Coffeyville, Kansas. So I know how hard it is for finances to come available for a public library. They're usually the first ones on the chopping block when it comes to getting rid of excess budget. And so it's really important that we have initiatives to help with fundraising that bring the community together. And my work as a child protection specialist, a youth program service provider, now the criminal justice and political science instructor at the college, I believe gives the background to help with not just offering educational fundraising type ideas, but also educational programs that our kids can really benefit from. Do I need to sell any more?
No, you did very.
You did great.
You did very well, very well.
You can take a deep breath.
Thank you.
I will move to appoint Nicole Nate to the Coffeyville Public Library Board of Trustees for a term April 30, 2025 through April 30, 2029.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Edwards, seconded by Mayor Maples, to appoint Nicole Nee to the Coffeyville Public Library Board of Trustees for a term April 30th, 2025 through April 30th, 2029. Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move on. Ordinance G-25-01, an ordinance amending certain electric rate schedules pursuant to Section 42-6 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Coffeyville, Kansas. Executive Director of Electric, Chris Weiner, will make comments.
Commissioners, I did want to add something here as we get ready to start. As you all know, it's been a very long process. It's been a very difficult process. I know both for commissioners and staff trying to boil this down. What you have in front of you as an ordinance does have starting times, and we did want to say out loud for commission consideration on those times that we can adjust those. We also provided a second option where it wouldn't start till January. We've had some of you suggest we just wait till after summer, more like a September time frame. So as part of this adoption moving forward, we would like to get your thoughts on starting timeline as well. So with that, Chris.
Well, I think Ben pretty much covered it there, but it's the same conversation we've been having now on multiple occasions. These are the same rates that we talked about at our last meeting just last week, I think it was. Talked to Ben today a little bit, and so we did want to go ahead and provide you an option if you decided, hey, we wanted to try and delay that a little bit. You know, that would provide that wiggle room there, but you know, and if you decided you wanted to do something altogether different, you know, we certainly could do that, but we're just trying to provide you with some information to make a decision and hopefully be able to answer any questions you have. So I think that, as we've discussed in the past, this is going to be a rather important increase for us. We haven't seen an increase in electric rates in almost a decade, and so it's something that we definitely need to address. Our costs have gone up significantly in that time period since, you know, COVID happened in 2021 or 2020. We've started to see some pretty severe inflationary impacts, and so we just would really appreciate your support in trying to move forward with moving forward with some electric rate adjustments. Be happy to address any questions you may have.
Rate schedule GSD Rec 26, Coffeyville Recreation Commission Facilities. I'm curious where this came from, because this is a new rate schedule that's not existed before, correct?
No, so we everything in there is currently existing, and so it's.
Because I didn't see it 10 years ago in the, I'm not calling you a liar, I believe you. No, and the reason I thought it was new is I looked at the documentation 10 years ago that was provided to the commissioners, and I did not see this one listed And when I look at the cover page here for the rate schedules, the ordinance sheet, I don't see GSD Rec 26 on there.
Okay. So on the ordinance sheet, I may have overlooked that. I know that ordinance is just one that we've updated every iteration that we've adjusted rates. So I should have went through and verified that was there. 10 years ago, we may not have had that rate class. I don't know. But I know if you look on the city's website today, we do have that rate class in existence.
So it
and-
may have been 5, 6, 7
I'm
years.
curious
Right.
Curious why we have a special rate class for one of the other taxing entities and not all of them. I mean, for instance, why would we give the rec commission cheaper rates
There's,
as opposed to the college, which is taxpayer supported, and the school district?
Well, what I would say is we're still uncovering contracts. If you recall, we've just updated. We had 8 or 9 contracts with the Rec Commission, and as we went through those, some of them stated that they will be,
Okay. She
I-
points out that they're city buildings.
yep,
Two.
that's right. They're city-owned buildings.
City-owned buildings, and then we've got, like you said, another contract
well,
with them too.
so the past contracts, some have said that there will be a reduced rate determined by city staff. Some have said that there'll be a half. Others have said that there is no reduction. So actually, David Rains and I have been trying to catch each other. We're scheduled to meet on, I believe it's Friday,
Yeah.
to discuss that, because the most recent one we signed does not say anything about a reduction. And so that would be a significant increase to them if we just went and did that. One of the other things we found out through this process is that several years ago, we offered them internet and haven't been paying for that either. So we are trying to clean that up. So where in the process that was added or changed, I would assume that was added because of the recreation agreements versus anything with rate study agreements. But that's complete speculation. We could go back through minutes and search for that. I think we're trying to clear that up on the recreation. Okay.
One of the other reasons, like Commissioner Van Oster said, is they're city-owned buildings, and the taxing district for the city rec is probably 90%, 99% our customers. So it's just paying ourselves, and we give them a slight discount.
Sure.
And, the
That's
school
one way
and
to look
college,
at it.
again, we-
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will say that the discount is a little bit more than slight, but
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
And
I
all
get
that
it.
can be
I
reviewed.
get it.
It's being reviewed.
Yeah.
Yes, we're having conversations about
Okay.
that.
So you have said that we could hold this off.
Not indefinitely. That
No,
would
no,
not be
no,
our
no, no, no.
recommendation.
But say for 6 months, correct? Up to maybe?
Yes,
January?
you have flexibility here to tell us when to start this.
Okay.
Currently, you'll go through and you'll look at that packet on the dates there. And we have April 25, and then January 26, and then January 27. So if we were to hold to January, we would change those to January 1 of 26.
Six,
The
and
second
then
column would be
January
January 27, and the third would be 28.
Okay.
If we went to September, we got a multitude of options there. We could
We
go
could go back.
September and immediately do an increase in a few months, or you could make it September across those 3 years. So that's some of the direction on when to start this. One of the reasons we're making sure to say that out loud is going through that exercise of notifying the public and make sure they understand. We are working through final touches on several infographics that will be both mailed out, will be put on our webpage. We have a press release, depending on details tonight that happen, that we will go update and send that out. So we want to give the public adequate time to understand the who, what, where, when, why of this is a major decision. And
It is a
Yes,
major
it
decision, and I
is.
think that was, my thought is if we do wait till January, I know we need to do this, and I understand why we need to do this. But if we wait till January, we give the public time to absorb the fact that they're going to have to do these higher electric rates. I mean, none of us want to, but if they've got that in their mind, then maybe it kind of makes it a little easier. I mean, it's not all at once. I mean, it's going to be all at once, but I guess my thought process is we give them time to understand it's going to happen. That's my thought.
And do some prep.
Do some prep work and be able to adjust in
Yeah,
January.
as we're looking back over 10 years, and I have this, because the press release we've been talking about, the average electric rate in Kansas, across Kansas, for 10 years, every year for 10 years has been about 2.3%. And it's 3.8 in some and just 3.0 in others. The city of Coffeyville's, over that same 10-year period, average annual year increase is 0.38% from residential side. So, we've talked about keeping rates flat-ish and then having to do extreme, and we don't recommend that. You've already made those decisions with water before. Some of the staff that's here today were on and trying to have a slow progression increase that matches inflation versus this extreme. But so what we're kind of up against right now is that decision against the extreme.
Well, I'll throw my 3 cents in, inflation. From a practical standpoint, just looking at numbers, we have to do the increase. I would implement it, the rate starting September 1st. Reason being, the billing cycle would be October for September. September, October, November, mostly December, is a lower electric usage rate time for all of us. The kilowatt hours used in those months in your homes, businesses for air conditioning goes low. So the impact would be less then, kind of cushioned, and it rolls right into January. So you would start in September, but that would roll the rate, whatever we would roll through the calendar year 26 to the end of December 26. But we would start it in September 1st. Another reason why is it would cushion the impact and get them ready. It still gives them 6 months to prepare, notified that this is coming. The other reason is Mr. Weiner mentioned that GRDA will raise the wholesale rate in October. I don't think we should wait till January to pay for that. And so
Because then we're playing catch up?
because then we're playing catch up again, that we already are now, because we got an increase here in earlier this year, right?
October of last year.
October of last year,
Okay.
and we didn't do anything about that. And now we're going to get it in October, and we need to pay for that now, not play catch up more than we already are. And the fact that September, October, November are less electric usage rate, they will see much less impact, and it will again roll into the next
And
year
so are you
to the
saying
end
a
of the
full
year.
year and 3 months?
Yes,
Before
Yeah.
it goes up again?
right.
Okay.
Just to clarify, your recommendation would be then, I believe
That's
Mayor
my
Maples was saying,
recommendation.
then the
It's-
subsequent years, year 2, is increase would happen in January. Or were you saying every year it happened in September?
No, I think
No,
he's-
in January.
No, in January.
So
In January.
It would
Okay.
happen in September of 25
Okay.
and
And then
then
stay that
January
way.
of 27.
So whatever
Okay.
rate you're saying, put in January 1st, 26, just do that back to September 25,
Okay.
roll that in, that continues all the way through.
And then still, then
26.
again in January,
And then
27 and 28.
it goes up in every January.
Okay.
But it gets us to pay for the increase coming in October that we know is coming.
Right.
That's my reasoning.
Do we know what the increase is going to be?
The planned increase at this point is 4% from GRDA this October, and then another 4% from GRDA next October.
And it was how much last October?
4%.
Okay.
So right now, we're 4% behind,
Correct.
Pretty much. 'cause
and
we
we'll be
absorbed it.
8% behind in this coming October.
On the wholesale rate
Correct.
Right.
only, yeah.
Not
So this ordinance accounts for a 19% increase. Is that correct? Roughly.
No, the ordinance itself will account for approximately a 7% increase. The other 11.5% you're referencing is related to the changes in the PCA that we're going to see this year. Because I know we've talked about this, but the public may not have been watched those work sessions and whatnot, and so the gist of that is that the loss factor in the past has typically been about 7% is what we've used. We've always just stuck with that because that's what the ordinance says is our minimum. We've not updated that annually like it was intended to do, and so upon UFS looking at that with us, we determined that the loss factor for last year was 12%. The loss factor for 2023 was 16%. So the way it's supposed to work is that you have the minimum of that 7% or whatever you have in the ordinance as your minimum, which ours is currently set at 7%. And you look at that every year to see if it needs to be more than 7%. And so this past year it was 12, so that's what we're using at this point is that 12% loss factor. And so UFS has calculated that they've recommended actually a minimum of 14%, increasing our minimum to 14% because that's the average of the past 2 years. And you do have that in your packet, your ordinance. That PCA does have an adjustment in there that would increase the floor or the minimum to 14% based on that recommendation. So they, in their projections for the PCA this year, which would be amount to that additional 11.5% or so, 10 to 11.5% increase on the residential bill for that PCA adjustment based on that loss factor. If we went to 14%, if you don't adjust that as it is, it'll stay at 12% for this year. So the expectation would be that it'd probably be a little bit less than that, but it's still going to be a sizable increase because of we have adjusted that loss factor for the first time in a long time.
And for the benefit of the folks at home that haven't been studying this, can you define what the loss factor is? What is the loss?
Yeah, so our losses for the distribution system essentially equate to a variety of things, such as these city facilities. We don't currently bill ourselves for the electric usage. All of that is just provided at a loss, essentially, to the electric utility. So whether it's this city hall, whether it's the wastewater facility, whatever it may be, we typically do not bill for electricity. The other factors there are street lights, traffic lights. We don't bill for any of that. That's just absorbed by the electric utility, but it's counted as a loss. And in addition to that, we do have losses on our system in, say, trees. Anytime a tree touches a power line, the branches touch power lines, they suck some of that electricity out, and so we have losses there. That's why a good tree trimming program is important, to make sure we keep those trees out of our lines. Not only can they cause outages, obviously, but they can also cause losses on our system, which then everybody has to pay for electricity that nobody uses because the trees are taking it. In addition to that, when we have some transformers that we try and make sure that we don't have this situation. We do maintenance, and we make sure that we try and adequately size transformers for locations. But if we have transformers out in the system that are running that may not be at their most efficient usage, that sometimes there'll be some losses there as well that are applicable that the system just sees. So there's a number of things that go into losses, and so basically what we do is we say how many units of electricity, kilowatt hours, did we sell or did we bill last year, and how many did we buy? And so that difference is our losses. And so then last year we saw 12% of the electricity that we bought we did not bill. And so then we have to go back and say, hey, we're going to increase that PCA by that amount, so that way we can make sure that we're keeping the utility whole.
What's the industry, nationwide, what's the industry standard or average?
It is typically somewhere around that 10 to 12%. And so we're not doing poorly, especially considering that we do have a significant number of customers out in the rural areas of the community. You'll have significant segments of our system that may have a couple customers on a mile stretch, and so we have a lot of trees in that mile stretch that are hitting our lines and taking our electricity. Again, we try and keep up on that as best we can, but we have a contractor tree crew of 3, and we have a big system to maintain, and so it's difficult for them to keep everything up. I am hopeful that when we talk budget, that you are supportive of maybe some other options on that front to beef up our tree trimming capabilities and reduce our losses, because that is significant. I think we can improve our loss ratio there, which will improve the utilities health as well as reduce the cost to our customers if we can do that. But that's that's a conversation for another time. But but we're not doing bad, especially considering the amount of rural customers we have.
Okay, question. The PCA, we're doing the rolling 6-month, so it's ramping up now, or does it not start ramping up until this is?
It has already started. So
Okay.
So
that part of it, we're not going to see the jump by October. It's already going to be there.
Right,
So then
so-
in October, we see this rate increase. It's going to be that much. The PCA is already going to be there, right?
Correct. So I believe last month's bill would have been the first time in
Yeah.
over a year that
Yes.
anybody saw a
Right.
PCA on their bill.
Right.
So we're going to gradually
We're
build
already
up the
we're already into
PCA
that.
portion.
Yeah.
By September, October, it's going to be where it should be because it's a 6-month rolling.
Correct.
So then when this rate increase is incremental, you're not going to see a full 18%. It's going to go up to 7.
7.
So because of the change to the PCA in 6 months, October, people will see they're already going to see what did you say it was, 11.5% increase?
If we were to implement the 14% floor, then yes, it would be approximately that for a residential customer.
Well, you all have already implemented it.
No, so we've implemented a 12%
Okay.
loss factor at this point.
My bad.
So in front of you this evening is included in that ordinance is an increase to that floor or that minimum of 14%.
Yeah.
So question, why is it, what would be wrong with a 12 or 13% floor instead of 14?
Nothing. The UFS just recommended that because that was the average of the past 2 years. So if you
Okay.
wanted to keep it the same at a 7% floor, you could certainly do that. Or if you wanted to go 12%, you could do that.
If you truly do the calculation like you're supposed to, and even if we made an 8% floor, but it calculates to be 13, it's going to be 13.
It's not going to matter. The
It's not
floor is
gonna
the
matter.
floor.
Correct.
But what if it calculated to 12.5 or something and
And you've got it at 14.
14? Should
Right.
we have it at 12, but do the true calculation, but have a 12% floor?
So I think
What's
the floor is there to try and make sure that, hey, you don't have a fluke year and you undercollect
Okay.
for that year.
Or a peak time period?
Right. But so my thought would be if you increased the floor to say 14% and then you ended up with a 12% year again, then you have a conversation, okay, how do we handle that? My thought would be probably if you go 2 or 3 years being below the floor, then you lower the floor. Because then you're looking at, hey, our average cost is lower than what our floor is. But if it's something that is just a fluke, then the floor did its job and prevented you because it may be that next
Yeah.
year your cost went back to average and you wound up that, hey, our actual cost of energy was, our actual losses were 16%, but we went down to 8% for that year because we had a fluke year on our losses, and so then you undercollect compared to where you should be.
And
But right now, we have a 7% floor.
We do.
So even if we raise it to 12, we've raised the floor.
Correct. So certainly you could do that, and I think at the end of the day, currently the cities, we're much better off than what we've been in the past even, given that, hey, well, at least we are adjusting that from that 7%. So certainly I think we're better positioned now than what we've been. But if we do want to increase the floor, certainly we could adjust that to whether it's 12, 13, 14%. You have some flexibility there, obviously.
And the PCA is not just driven by the loss factor. It's driven also by GRDA's calculation of what extra they're charging us by their PCA, correct?
Absolutely.
So it's a combination of all that.
It is. That's an excellent point, because that's the primary cost driver, is GRDA's overall wholesale cost to us, not our loss factor. GRDA's overall cost fluctuates largely based upon our demand. When we have a high usage month, in terms of demand, we wind up with a higher bill. The other component there is GRDA's PCA, as you referenced, just like we're talking about the PCA we pass through to our customers. GRDA has a PCA that they pass through to their customers, so we have that. And their PCA is significant. Their PCA typically winds up to be about a third of our total bill, and we have the projections over the next year for GRDA that's going to increase every month by about 1/10 of a cent. So we're looking at, over the next year, we're probably going to have an increase of a penny per kilowatt hour on their PCA that they're going to pass through to us. So our wholesale cost is going to continue to climb even beyond the 4% that we're already anticipating. That has nothing to do with their PCA, that they're going to continue to increase.
So sometimes in very high demand times, their wholesale rate to us fluctuates wildly up.
Right.
And comes back down in the evening.
Well, so we do have fixed cost pricing with them, so that our actual cost will stay the same. The only variability there is on the time of use. We pay a different price for on-peak energy, and we pay a different price for off-peak energy. However, the PCA is flat no matter when the energy is used. It's a flat, 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour used that month. But the energy itself, even though the market may be, $80 for that given hour, it depends on for us if it's an on-peak hour or an off-peak hour, and that's our only cost differential. But those prices, while they're not subject to change, and the price is not subject to change, for every kilowatt of demand that we have as a system, that drives up our cost by a little over $9 per kW per kilowatt. So when we do have a peak demand that month that is higher than a normal month, that winds up driving our cost substantially. And our demand sometimes will fluctuate by 8,000 kilowatts. It's not, a huge differential, but $9 times 8,000 is, a fairly significant number.
The other aspects here, not to, come off of our actual costs, is we talk about transformers, right? Transformers are on a 10-year 60 to 80% increase in price. As of 24, they were 142 weeks out before you could order them. You know about, steel and what's going on there in the market. And that's not just been within this recent administration. Those prices, same thing, have been volatile through COVID. We can start talking about the competition costs. Staff that run generation and distribution, those are highly trained, specialized jobs. Just in the 10 months that I've been here, and especially early on, we saw a lot of folks leaving to go to other utilities that were, had a range of salary and benefits. We did make some adjustments in our wage opener, and we'll continue to do that through our wage studies to be competitive. So these costs are across the board inflation. It's why GRDA is going up, is the same costs that we're experiencing, unlike a lot of other municipalities that aren't running their utility. And so that comparison, I've talked to a few residents that say, well, let's go look at Independence, let's go look at some of these others, and we have a differential there in the cost of that distribution and the generation that we make. So it's an extra component here to than what people might be used to, their family and friends that are in cities that are not running their own utility, electric utility.
And to that point, I think it is worth noting that, comparably speaking, Coffeyville, we do offer especially on the residential side of the equation, we are very competitively priced to other utilities in the state. Out of 67 utilities, including some IOUs like Evergy, but a lot of other communities, we ranked 7th out of 67 in terms of the lowest bill for the average residential customer. So when you're looking at we have a very very attractive community to live in, especially when you consider the cost of your utility bill, your electricity bill as a resident. So I think that while certainly we don't like increasing rates, and we'd love to maintain that 7th ranking, maybe even get a little bit better, but there is obviously a cost of doing business, and we have to make sure we prepare for the future and pay for a lot of the things that we've have a lot of projects going on right now that are expensive, and equipment needs that we have, and we've got to be able to pay for those things because they all cost some money.
So if we take no action tonight, there's already, in 6 months, the ratepayers' average bill is going to go up what percent?
If you take no action, my expectation would be, based upon the projections of the PCA at least,
Yeah.
that their bill probably goes up somewhere around 10%.
Okay.
Gradually from here to there.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, just my opinion, I'm okay with the proposal. I'm okay with the 14% floor. Granted, it's calculated accurately later, and we would adjust down if it came below 14 or even 13 and change later. I'm also proposing and want to hear a commissioner's opinions on implementing this rate September 1st for the bill cycle to be in October for that September bill. Reason being, our wholesale rate's going up in October and not getting behind on that.
And I can agree with you on that. I just worry about it going up. The peak is going to be in September, and we're going to raise rates at that same time. And that's going to be a lot.
And it's a chunk of that is ramping up to that, and then it's
It
incremental.
is, and I understand
It's either
that.
see that jump in September or see it in January. And if we wait till January, we're getting behind on our wholesale rate for October, November, December. And that
We
is
are.
my concern, to get behind financially, and I don't want to do that.
And I understand that.
And
I'm just,
that's my
I'm just,
reasoning.
I'm thinking this through
math,
here.
just
About-
financial math.
Sure.
Our people.
Well, but yeah,
Like
we
you
do
said.
have to worry about our people.
Yes, like you said,
Well,
because
and-
you're
and
putting this both together. I mean,
And
I'm
that-
trying to think of the people that,
Well, I am, and that's why I picked September, because September, October, November are the
Because it's the
lower
lowest-
usage rate.
Right, and I
will be the
understand that.
lesser financial impact.
September I'm iffy about.
That gets you ready for
September can be
January.
hot.
Hot. September can be hot.
The first part of it, yes, I agree, I agree.
This last
Using the
year
air
was-
conditioner a lot. in
So what
September.
about implementing the rate October 1st then? We got October, November, December.
I think what I would like to see us do is, folks are already going to see a 10% increase, roughly, give or take, within 6 months. I would be, I know there had been talk, at least among some of us, about making a further cut to the mill levy this summer. I would be willing to commit at this point to holding steady at the mill levy rate that we're at, making no further cuts for this upcoming budget session. We're already going to have, the folks are already going to see a 10% increase as it is. Let's revisit this in November, and we can make a decision in November about what we want to do for rates in 2026. Let's see how things shake out. I know that it's going to put us behind, but for all the reasons that all of us know, because we've been eating, drinking, sleeping, and having nightmares about electric rates for 3 months now. The bottom line is the folks don't care why their electric bill's going up. They just care that it went
It goes
up.
up. You're right.
Well,
They
we have
don't-
to educate them why.
They,
No.
Because that
Ally,
extra money, it's not like it's going into the city's
Yeah, but
coffers. It's to pay GRDA,
They-
it's to pay extra costs, it's to pay our wholesale rate.
they,
going up.
they just care that it went up. That's 98% of them. And I'm not even saying that. I'm not looking down my nose at anybody. That's just reality. And it's, there,
And delaying it 3 months is gonna make what difference
I
except
want-
get us behind financially?
well, we're not behind
Well,
financially.
I
for,
don't think it
We're not hurt.
will, because
There have been periods of time where the city has sold electricity below cost.
Right.
Now, I'm not suggesting that we do that. That's a recipe for disaster. But there's been a change in leadership here at City Hall. We have a new electric utility director, a new city manager. We have a lot of new leadership in our city. And it's a good thing. But what happens every time we have a transition from one city manager, especially at the city manager position, to the next, is things fall through the cracks. This issue should have been dealt with a year ago, a year and a half ago. The problem is we were smack dab in the middle of a transition, and it just was not going to happen. So it's just, this is one of the many reasons why it's good to have stability in your city manager position. And, you know, you go out and ask people for more than a 10% increase in 1 year, and buddy, you're on your own. I may not be able to run fast,
and I,
but I can sure knock somebody down to get by myself some time to get away from that mob. I ain't doing it.
well, and I understand the percent talk, but what
Yeah.
I'm saying is October, November, the electric usage is half or a third of what it is in July,
And
August.
people are depending on
So their
that.
bill will be a lot less.
And a lot of people are depending on that decrease to financially take
Yeah.
a breath, because they've been getting rocked in June and July and August and
If-
so September,
And then we
depending on how hot
have-
it is.
But from a logical
also-
standpoint, if you're
You get
saying
Christmas coming up.
it should have been done a year and a half ago, why delay it another 3 months? I mean,
I just.
and the rate going up on us in October is putting us behind, you know, from a, you know,
It is, but.
dot on the map standpoint.
I just don't, I'm not comfortable doing this at that time. I would, if we want to do a rate increase, I'm for revisiting, or I don't even know if you could,
Are you
we
saying that
wanted to
we're,
pass, just a minute, to pass the ordinance even tonight on a first reading, say it take effective January 1st? That way, people will start, and we push it out there.
That's my thought.
I would rather just wait and vote on it, because things just have a way of developing that you don't know about, and I guarantee you, there's a 90% likelihood we're gonna end up having to vote on it again anyway to clean it up or something. I think what we do is we let people know that by the end of this year, they're going to start seeing their bill creep up, and it's going to continue into next year. They need to be planning now for these increases to be coming, and we need to let them know, hey, this is, you know, here are the reasons why. Again, they're not going to care a great deal. they're just going to care that their prices went up, but I want them to know that we're not increasing their rates out of meanness, or, you know, we're trying to drive people out of town. Here are the reasons why, for the ones that do care to know or educate themselves. And, you know, this is our opportunity to educate the stakeholders and the citizens about, you know, how our electric utility operates. I mean, to me, this is an opportunity to let people know, you know, we're part of a bigger electric system that runs down into Oklahoma, and sometimes we generate electricity and sometimes we don't. I think there's a lot of people that just don't completely understand that there are a lot of issues outside of the boundaries of Coffeyville that go into their electricity being generated and how much it costs. So
That's true.
I would just
I
like
would
to
agree
see
with
us
that.
Yes.
sit pat, take no action tonight, ride this thing out, not leave the mill levy alone in the summer, for the budget this next year. I think that's wise anyway. We made a huge cut in that last year, and ordinarily I wouldn't want to make such a drastic change, but I think it was needed. But let's take time to, let's take another year to digest that big cut, and we can let people know now that there's, you know, we've held off giving them the pain of these electric rate increases over the last few years. But we've got to figure out going forward, and I said this the other night, we have to figure out a way to get to a point where, personally, as a ratepayer, I'd rather have a 2% or a 1.5% increase every year than
Exactly.
to go 8 or 9 years with no increases, and then boom, you get hit with a 10 or a 15% increase all at once. Because I can turn the thermostat down a half a degree or a degree, and, you know, at some point that doesn't work. But, you know, I can do things to affect my bill, and over time I can acclimate much more easily to 1 or 2% increase a year than, you know, to take a increase all at once. And I think a lot of people would feel the same way. But
Okay. So you're wanting to hold off on this,
yeah,
and we know we're going to have the increase in October, correct?
Well,
But
the
we're gonna have
PCA
the
is
PCA
increasing
now. Right, it started now, because I
Right,
noticed that already.
That's still gonna, our bill's
And then,
going to go up.
right, and it already is. So I will agree to this, but I think we need to visit it sooner in October, because don't we have to have 2 readings? And then you have to publish it in the paper, and I would like to get it discussed and over with and voted on before December.
okay, we have 2 meetings in November and you have 2 meetings in December.
I know, but I'd like for us to start revisiting this in October, so that we can make our mind up, have our 2 readings in November or whatever,
Okay.
and then we're done.
Commissioners,
And
I,
start in January.
Yes.
I think you understand this, but the way you mentioned something, I just want to make sure to clarify here. The increases folks are going to see on the PCA, Commissioner Edwards, to your point earlier, that is about, we are charging folks under what we're being charged.
Right.
So when we do see, yes, an individual is going to see an increase on their bill because of that. But as far as running the utility, you know, we're trying to catch back up to closer to 0 than we've been on the negative side.
Right.
The rate increases are those things that help us move forward. This is just, we were negative, we were being charged 14% over at least the last 2 years, charging nothing. And so I just want to make that clarification here that, yes, people are going to see an increase. As far as managing the utility, that is just catching closer to 0, not
Right.
a cash benefit moving forward on our balances to take care of the utility.
And I'll politely disagree with the proposal or logic, because I'm looking at it from really your reasoning of to see the blow. And what I think is you start the rate in October, they see the bill in November, it's a lower electric usage, dollar-wise it's a cushion, it's not that big. January is going to be what it is, but it will ramp up to that. If you wait till kick this can down the road and wait till January for the 7% rate increase to kick in, December, for people who run their heaters a lot and have all electric heat, that is going to be a huge jump up in January for the February bill. And it's going to be less of a cushion than if you did it in starting October, November. And that's just my logic reason, plus the fact we're getting the increase wholesale rate in October, and it's paying for it for 2 months.
The
instead of
Chinese have a
1 month.
saying, Commissioner Hendricks, that the way to eat an elephant is one spoonful at a time. I think 10% this year is enough of a spoonful.
Well, I'm not held by calendar year. That's what I'm thinking. When events
Well,
happen.
but I understand, I can understand what he's saying, because people are going to struggle to pay these bills, and if we increase, let's say we keep the floor at 14, and then we raise again in January, that kind of spaces it out a little bit, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yes.
I don't know how else to say it.
Let's wait and see how things go with the increase they're already going to get. Let's see how that pans out. And later towards the last quarter, or in the last quarter of the year, we can revisit this.
My only comment would be to just reiterate what City Manager Brubaker said, that really the increase that they're going to feel if you don't pass any kind of increase at this point on the PCA is really to try and make sure that we, from a wholesale energy cost, we don't take a loss, as we have been here for a few years now. The cost increase that we've absorbed over time on 75% increase on transformers in the past 3 years. Those are expensive, $25,000 a piece. You're looking at, we've given raises over the past decade that health insurance costs go up. All these different components go up of running the utility. And so if you decide to, hey, we don't want to pass a rate increase at this point, I understand that, I respect that, but I would say that those costs are going to need to be paid for. We're going to have to increase rates at some point, in my personal opinion, so that we're not going to be able to say, hey, the PCA was enough, and we're going to be able to get by without a rate increase in 26, maybe even 27, because we adjusted the PCA. We're still going to need to be able to increase rates in 26, in my opinion, if we don't do it this year, in order to account for those additional costs that the utility is seeing beyond just wholesale energy.
But I think that's what we're saying here is the PCA this year, the rate increase starting January of next year.
Commissioner, you're in a very difficult place, and we want to make sure to appreciate that, because you are between the rock and the hard place of understanding and hearing your constituents' needs. We feel that too. We also obviously have a fiduciary responsibility to communicate what these are, and I think we've done that over and over. We just the fearful thing I have, to your point of waiting a little bit longer, is in 2020, based on 2019 financials, the folks that were up there made a decision to do rates for 3 years, and that's a pattern. Mm-hmm. When 2023 came, no change. 24 came, no change. And now we're truly, and we have, staff has delayed into 25 trying to find exact numbers for the exact reason you pointed out. We're new, we're trying to understand what's past. But effectively, what has happened is over a 3-year period, we've not done anything by getting through the end of this year. And so, I hesitate to say you're only making a 6 months delayed decision. That 6 months caps us to now a 3-year delay. To your point of we don't want those major increases, the further we go, and if for some, reason we needed to kick another 6 months, as both in what staff should calculate on our numbers, really those should continue to increase for that decrease we're not seeing. And again, that's based on engineer calculations, that's asset age that we have, it's all the costs we've talked about. So I think you've heard from us enough. We just want to make sure that we are articulating that concern there from a financial position and where we've been. And I appreciate the difficult nature of that decision, but want to make sure that we are articulating on the other side.
I think we understand that you guys are just doing your jobs. And there's no good way out of this situation. Ultimately, the rates, you fast forward to 3 years from now and the rates are going to be very different than what they are right now. And I get that. So what we have to do in the meantime is educate the public as much as we can that it's coming. And I think we need to find ways to, in the meantime, until we get to a place where the rates are where they should be or where they're going to have to be, we need to tighten our belts a little bit and just be a little extra judicious about, transferring money out of the electric fund that, maybe we could wait a year or two until situations get better. We buy a lot of vehicles. I'm not going to go down the list of ways we could cut the budget, but we just need to look at getting lean.
Well, and that's what we did. That's what's happened in the past 4 or 5 years. Cut the budget. We were lean, and now we're buying vehicles because they were trash, all the way run down to the wheels. And I know what you mean. We've done that already, and now we're here. And I'm still on board with implementing the rate in October. I think that's the least painful for both sides, is implementing starting October. They'll see it on the bill in November. That's just where I'm at.
Thank you. I'm ready to move on.
Okay,
to the
I'm
next
going to
topic.
move to approve the first reading of ordinance G 2501 with an increase date of January 1st, 2026.
Okay.
This is not fun for any
This
of us,
isn't.
believe me. We
I'll-
are not enjoying this.
Because when you understand both sides, you understand the consumer side and you understand the city, the business side.
That's my minimum compromise, so I'll second it.
Motion is made by Mayor Maples, seconded by Commissioner Hendricks to approve the first reading of ordinance G 25-01 with an increased start date of January 1st, 2026. Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
No. Well, I lost that one, didn't I?
There's
It's
no
not a
loss.
loss.
Can't win 'em all.
It's not.
It's not a loss.
No,
This
it's
is
not
a
a loss.
struggle for every one of us. We have
I'm-
all
'Cause we-
absolutely lost sleep over this.
I know you have, and I know that for sure. And I am
It's-
I'm not going to say one bad thing about what you've done, because I understand why you're doing it, and I get it.
I'm
and
gonna-
I hope you feel the same way about me.
Well,
but
here, I'm going to tell,
No, I-
I'm
If
going
you
to tell
don't,
the
that's
audience
okay
the same
too.
thing I've told you guys. I live in a really big, really old house. It is not energy efficient.
Yeah.
This is personally going to affect me because my utility bills are going to go up, and I've got a big
Sure.
old house I got to heat and cool. So I'm not taking this lightly. I hope people understand out there, we are not taking this lightly. We are struggling with this to do the right thing for now, for the citizens of Coffeyville today, and so that we can continue to support the citizens of Coffeyville in the future. So finding the right thing to do has been a long, hard process, and we are doing the best we can to make the right decisions.
It has to be done.
It has to.
It's just a matter of how and when.
And
Right.
when,
And
Yeah.
we
I
are
get it.
very fortunate to have our own utility.
We are.
Electric utility.
and that's why I want to keep
And
it
the
viable.
response
Exactly.
time that those guys do is on top. I mean, you know, when it's on Facebook about an outage in some area, within several hours, it's already remedied.
Absolutely.
And that's just remarkable. And you will see that the citizens, they do appreciate that.
Yep.
They
Well,
know
and I-
may live a few hours without electricity. I mean,
Commissioner
surely
Van
we
Osten?
can. Uh-huh.
Many times that's less than an hour.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've had
It's
people,
extraordinary.
I had people move here from Joplin saying our response time is quicker than Joplin, and it's a bigger city. So, I mean, we have something to be very, very proud of with our electric
So those are
utility.
things we got to take into consideration too. But, yeah.
Chris, you're doing a very good job. I appreciate it.
We
Yes.
do thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
This has
Chris.
not been easy for you guys either, because you've done a lot of research on doing this, and it is greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you very much, and certainly I can't take much credit. I have a terrific team, and you know they're the ones who get the lights on quickly. You know, we thankfully have been awarded a platinum award ranking for reliability, and there's only a
you go.
handful of communities across the nation that have that level of reliability status and even a diamond level on safety. And so we're just really excited about you know our utility and how we've got a terrific team and Commissioner and City Manager Brubaker has been great to work with and very supportive as well as all of you. So certainly appreciate everything you do to you know I know it's been a long hard road trying to have these conversations, and I recognize it's you know these decisions are not easy. So appreciate all the time and effort you've put into these conversations.
Thank you for
Well,
your
Thank
vote.
you very much.
And I want to add, you know, Chris is the one that has come on and found that for years PCA was not adequately representing those costs. And so, yes, we've got a great team all the way around, from our leadership team here down to those folks who are out there in the weather doing this, and really excited to continue to move forward on success for this community. I think everybody we've met with wants it to be better and wants to be proud of the community they live in. And this utility, my understanding is it paid for this building. What was 19, what was that, 29? I remember the 18, 1929? Yeah, so that utility again is a major blessing for this community, and we are trying to adequately take care of it.
I hope so.
Okay. Moving on, Resolution R-25-39, a resolution to authorize a purchase order to Gray Bar to provide primary underground wire for the electric utility. Executive Director of Electric, Chris Weiner, will make comments.
Hello.
Hello.
Long time no talk. Just wanted to order some stock wire for the utility distribution system. It's a little bit larger order than what we've done in the past, but want to try and make sure that the costs, as we've just discussed, keep going up, and so want to try and get a stockpile of both three-phase and single-phase wire, so that way, as we continue to grow and expand, we are blessed that hey, we are having some growth in the community, and we're seeing some need to not only replace existing infrastructure, as City Manager mentioned earlier. We've got some aging infrastructure. You know, about half of our infrastructure, our average age of our infrastructure is about half through its service life. So we've certainly got some stuff that needs replaced. That includes some wire, but we're just trying to replenish our stockpile here and have a little bit in reserve and take advantage of some pricing before it continues to just
Keep going.
go
Well,
up.
an example of trying to save money by buying ahead before price goes up, and again, very much appreciated.
If there's no questions, I will move to approve Resolution R-25-39 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Hendricks to approve Resolution R-25-39 as presented. Vice Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
All right, moving on.
Thank you all.
Resolution R, thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris, very much.
Resolution R-25-40, a resolution to award a construction contract to TC Underground for replacement of a water main along Sunflower Street. Deputy Director of Public Works, Thomas Osborne, will make comments. Hello,
Good evening, Mayor and
Thomas.
Commissioners. So the Water Department has found and located a leak on Sunflower, north up by the refinery. The leak is actually kind of under a box culvert area, so it was kind of hard that we even found it, but there was a lot of water there all the time, so we were made aware that that was happening. We found that leak. This contract with TC is to replace approximately 400 feet of line. We are asking to go ahead and upsize that. It's currently an 8-inch main. Go ahead and upsize it to a 12. We have 12-inch main to just south of the levee, and then it goes to 8, and then at the river it goes back to 12. So we just, while we're at this spot, let's just go ahead and upsize it, replace it.
Sure.
So that it's ready to go, as well as be able to hook onto that in the future for any upgrades onto the lines. This is a line that goes out to feed our industrial park. TC Underground provided us with the low quote. We did receive 4. The funding for this comes out of the depreciation fund. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Question. Is this the issue that Mr. Campbell brought up? Okay.
Could be, I'm not sure.
I don't recall the name, but farmer out there
I
that,
believe-
yes.
I believe
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I'm glad it's getting resolved.
There's no further questions. I will move to approve Resolution R-25-40 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Edwards to approve Resolution R-25-40 as presented. Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Okay. Resolution R-25-41, a resolution to award a bid to Shawnee Mission Ford for a 2025 dump bed truck for the Stormwater Department. Deputy Director of Public Works, Thomas Osborne, will make comments.
Thank you again, Mayor and Commissioners. In January of this year, we brought to you guys quite a large bit of equipment and needs that we're needing for the several departments in the public service area. So this one was one of those items that was brought forth. We currently have, I believe it's an 05 Ford 1-ton with a dump bed. It's had some electrical and mechanical issues to the point where we don't even like to drive it at this point, just because we want to try to sell it off and get what we can out of it while it's operating. We put them out to bid, and bids were opened on April 17th. We received 2 bids from, both of them were for Ford, one from Quality Motors, one from Shawnee Mission. Shawnee Mission also included the alternate bid to go ahead and include the dump bed with the purchase of the truck. We had some other quotes that come in line with their costs that they're providing here for similar style dump beds. So we just felt it would be prudent to just go ahead and pull the trigger on one contract and get that ordered through Shawnee Mission Ford. The total cost for the truck was, with the dump bed included, was $68,664. In January, we had a budget proposed of $75,000. So this is, of course, just to affirm and award the bid to Shawnee Mission Ford. If you have to answer any questions.
Which was under bid, under budget.
Yes.
Right,
Thank you.
good.
Well,
I'll
Ed,
mo-
go ahead.
I move to approve Resolution R-25-41 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Hendricks, seconded by Mayor Maples to approve Resolution R-25-41 as presented. Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Thomas.
Resolution R-25-42, a resolution to author a transfer from Fund 520 to Fund 500. Director of Finance, Martin Cummings, will make comments.
Good evening. I will
Good evening.
try to keep this brief because I think you guys are going to hear a lot more from me tonight than you're wanting to, so get it over with. As you read, we are recommending in this resolution that we transfer $4.3 million from Fund 520 to Fund 500. Both are currently held and submitted to the state as general reserve funds. So just to give you a little bit of just give you a little more context, the idea is to clean up historic accounting and provide clear transparency on the current set of transportation sales taxes that we currently have in place, as well as the expenditures associated with those projects. Historically, various general reserves and transportation sales taxes have been held in this common 520 fund. In our current version of Encode, however, once money is held in a common fund, it becomes, Encode is not capable of differentiating balances between subcategories within the fund. And so this creates issues with reporting and transparency that we would like to address and remedy at this point. So after consultation with the city's financial advisor, Baker Tilly, and analysis of the current balance of Fund 520, has been determined that $4.3 million should be differentiated as reserve money and transferred to Fund 500, which, as most of you, as you're all aware, is where the general fund's common reserves come from. And so we would basically, essentially, are by default proposing that that just be our general reserve fund for the city. Okay, as opposed to having two different places where it comes out of. Okay, and then going forward, Fund 520 will become dedicated to our transportation sales taxes. So anyone were to come and then ask me going forward, hey Marty, what's the balance of our transportation sales taxes? I could say, here it is. Oh, and here's all the expenditures related to that. So here's, now you know why we're down to, whatever we're talking about at that point. Okay, so at this point, our recommendation is that we pass this resolution authorizing this transfer of the specified funds from 520 to 500. Any questions?
Nope. Get it? I will move to approve Resolution R-25-42 as presented.
Second?
Motion is made by Vice Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Edwards to approve Resolution R-25-42 as presented. Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Ordinance S-25-04, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a loan agreement between the City of Coffeyville and the State of Kansas for the purpose of obtaining a loan from the Kansas Public Water Supply Loan Fund for the purpose of funding a public water supply project. Director of Finance, Martin Cummings, will make comments.
It's our intention to present to you this loan agreement with the KDHE. In authorizing this loan, we are hoping to be able to provide funding for the replacement of lead and galvanized lines throughout the city. The total, just to kind of give you some of the background here, the City of Coffeyville applied for and was approved to receive a loan through the KDHE. This would be specifically the Kansas Public Water Supply Loan Fund, administered by the KDHE. The loan will fund the replacement of existing lead and galvanized service lines. And this is, and the impetus obviously is to promote the general health and well-being of our community. Okay. The total amount of the loan is going to be $6,955,000 with principal forgiveness attached to the loan of $3,616,000 available to the city, available due to the city's status as a disadvantaged community. This forgiveness represents approximately 52% of the project principal. So final forgiveness will be confirmed upon project completion and loan amendment. The estimated net loan cost to the city when all is said and done will be $3,338,400. Okay. A few things that we want to go ahead and call the public's attention to as we're discussing this. The interest rate on the loan is going to be 2.53%. Okay. The first payment will be due August 1st, 2027. I will point out that on these types of loans, that due date, or that first principal payment date, is contingent on the completion status of the project. So if there's something happens that delays the project, we are able to push out that first payment until the project is completed. And then obviously, if the full loan is not used, the principal forgiveness can be reduced. So they may reduce it by whatever rate that we ultimately don't use the loan. So, okay. Now, if the loan is increased by amendment, however, forgiveness will not increase. So we do want to be sensitive to this going forward, that we obviously look for other funding if the project were to exceed the funding limit that they set. So just to give you guys some context on that. Our recommendation is that the commission approves this ordinance and the associated execution of the associated loan agreement with the KDHD. Are there any questions at this time?
I do want to throw out, just to keep in mind, this is passed down through the federal government under a previous administration. Of course, we went through all of this. The city decided to get ahead of this, apply for these funds really before we were forced to make some of these changes. So there may not, so there's no surprises if the federal government decides to come in and increase timelines or changing things. It's a big unknown. We do know that things that are an environmental impact, current administration is analyzed and looking. So we want you to make sure you're walking into this realizing that this was because of requirements we knew coming, and those are still existing today. We've not been told they have changed, but there's probably a greater likelihood that fluctuation in those rules could come. I think that's still a matter of debate on health implications of these lines, and so maybe that piece is not changed because others are more environmental, and there's some greater opinions from political parties on that. We just don't know. We want to make sure you're hearing us say that those rules could change. We would need to continue on down this path with this money since it becomes a loan there.
Do we have a priority list?
So the answer is yes. I can't give that to you
No,
at this
that's fine.
time. So the engineering firm that had helped us put all this together does have a priority list. It amounts to, and I will beg your indulgence on some of these details, approximately 15% of the estimated lead lines in the city. So that's what this project will touch on. Okay. Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's the general assumption. So
Okay.
we are going to be meeting with them going forward to get obviously to pin down all project particulars and to map out timelines and stuff like that. So certainly we would be happy to provide you guys with greater project clarity as we receive it.
Sure.
Okay. Sounds good. If there's no further questions, I will move to approve first reading of S-25-04 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor Van Oster, second by Mayor Maples, to approve the first reading of ordinance S-25-04 as presented. Vice Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution R-25-43, a resolution to enter into a consulting services agreement with BG Consultants for engineering services to prepare construction plans for the extension of Gibson Street and a portion of Grandview Avenue. City Manager Ben Brubaker will make comments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Gibson Street. That's about the 5 acres that we purchased. This is the engineering work that we need to have complete in order to apply for a grant. We're applying for a grant that would pay for that entire project, electric, water, streets. 2.5 million is the estimated cost of what that project's going to be to get all that infrastructure in there. So we need to move forward on this in order to finish applying for that grant.
Okay. Okay, well, if there are no questions, I will move to approve Resolution R-25-43 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Mayor Maples, seconded by Commissioner Hendricks to approve Resolution R-25-43 as presented. Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Okay. Discussion on fire department emergency responses and related contracts. Fire Chief Mike O'Connor will make comments.
Evening.
Good evening.
You guys probably got a lot of information in your packet. Some of it will be relevant to what we're talking. Well, it's all relevant, but the reason that we're here tonight is I have some members of my department who would like to join. And technically, we've had membership in the past, but the two we had previously are no longer employed with us. One's retired, one's moved on. Kansas Task Force 4 is a what they would call a USAR, which would be a urban search and rescue organization. There's multiple fire departments in the southeast Kansas region. It's literally the twin brother of the regional hazmat team. So it's no cost to us. If we were a part of this, it doesn't mean we're required to go. None of my employees would be required to be a member of it. It would be completely optional. It would just make them to where if there was a regional response, some incidents that I know they responded to would be the Joplin tornado, for instance. If there was something to that effect where they called and said, hey, we need resources for this flooding event, this tornado, earthquake, any type of natural disaster, they would then contact us, see if we had personnel to send. And then the big benefit to us is if we do go, we're reimbursed for our people to go. So it gets us, which, in that event, nobody's looking, nobody goes to the Joplin tornado so they can get paid. But it does, if we have equipment that gets ruined or damaged, we get reimbursed for that equipment. It also provides our people with specialized free training. So there's specialized training that we'll be invited to that'll be at no cost to us. So it's really a good thing that, like I said, it's completely voluntary. Nobody has to join it. My guess is we'll probably have somewhere between a half dozen that'll be interested in it. So
Would you have a limit on how many would go at one time?
So it's all dependent upon, with FEMA, they have all different levels. So it depends on what type of resource they're asking for. So, for instance, if there was a request for a Type 3 swiftwater rescue team, it's all about the number of people that they're requesting. And I don't know the exact numbers, but say, for instance, a Type 1, they want 12 different people. I'm sorry, a Type 3 would want 12. If it's a Type 1, they want 24. So out of this Task Force 4, if they called down and said, hey, we need a Type 3 rescue team, can you provide one? They would take 12, but that would be 12 from the collaboration of departments. So in Task Force 4, you have members from Chanute, Parsons, Pittsburgh, Neodesha. There's a couple EMS agencies. So at most, we may send 2 to 3 folks. So deployments could range anywhere from, a 12-hour to it could be 2 or 3 days. So it's all just dependent upon, what it is. So like I said, for a lot of things, we already send people anyway. I'm sure you saw on the news the gentleman in Altamont who was swept away in the floodwaters. So we responded to that just as a mutual aid to assist them, whereas later on Task Force came in and assisted. So again, that's not like we're doing this so we can get reimbursed for it, but if we have equipment that gets damaged in that response, if we send people over there, then it helps us, get funding for those equipment needs. And so it's a thing we've already been in the past. Chief Roski was a member of it. He was a founding member of Task Force 4. We had another firefighter named Sean Price who left to go to Overland Park. They were members of it, so it's nothing new. It's just we wanted you to be aware of it. since it is I don't want to say a long-term commitment. There is no like, hey, you have to redo it every year, but it is something that we felt you guys needed to be aware of, and so
Okay.
that is the first thing that you got. You got some other paperwork that we'll talk about if you guys have any questions. I know there was some questions. Why do we have Deering and South Coffeyville and other departments that come into Coffeyville to assist us, and why do we go and assist them? So included in your packet, there was a couple aid agreements in there. There's two different types, and they really mean the same thing in our regards, but there's automatic aid and there's mutual aid. So the automatic aid, if that alarm comes in for an automatic aid, if there's this is just for what we would call structure fires, so building fires only. If there's a building fire that comes in to the city of Coffeyville, and that dispatcher realizes, hey, this is, they're calling, we have multiple callers, they know that, hey, this is a fire. We don't have to get on the radio and say, please dispatch Deering and South Coffeyville. They automatically do it. So it takes that guessing work from that company officer on, do I want more people? How many people do I need? And the reason we do that is for that fact sheet that I put in your packet. It's called NFPA 17010. It would kind of be like the OSHA equivalent of the fire service. So NFPA stands for National Fire Protection Agency. It's not anything that's by law, but it's what we try to follow as best we can. So just some key requirements in NFPA 1710 for a single family dwelling, so just a regular house in Coffeyville. On your first alarm, they want 16 to 17 firefighters. Well, with the 6 guys that I have on duty at any given time, the numbers don't add up. So, and if money was no option, I'd be sitting here saying, hey, let's just hire, let's build another fire station and have 14 people on staff. Well, that's not, viable option. So that's why we call in for off-duty personnel to come in. That's why we call for Deering and South Coffeyville. And if we can get 6 of my people to come in to augment the 5 on duty, and then we can get 3 from Deering, we can get 3 from South Coffeyville, that puts us to that NFPA minimum requirement that we try to get to. So, like I said, there's a lot of information in there.
What's been your typical experience of what's been needed on a house fire? Does that match that, or is it 12 to 16 or 12?
So, I'll be honest, when I first started 18 years ago, we had just kind of got into this. It used to be, kind of what, it was John Wayne time. We didn't call in anybody unless, it was just something that you guys saw when you looked out your window. And, times have changed. There's just so much, there was so many heat-related issues and cardiac arrest, and that's just from the exertion. Firefighting is a very, very physical, taxing profession. The guys go from, 1 minute they're sound asleep in bed at 2 a.m. and the next minute, their heart rate's 140 and, they're going into a 1,200 degree house fire. It's a very physically taxing, regardless how good a shape you're in. So to say every single time do we need 16, no. But if it's what, I would call a bread and butter, you got a bedroom that's on fire, it takes a lot of people. And there's a lot of different, things that we want to implement as far as we want to try to get a search going. That takes extra people, and then it takes extra people to stretch the lines, bring in supply lines from hydrants, and then we want to try to have a RIT team established, which the RIT team does nothing but go in and rescue a firefighter if something were to happen. So again, do we need them every single time? No, but it only takes that one time, where you don't have them, and then we have a saying, we'd rather have them and not need them than need them and not have them. So I'd much rather turn somebody around and say, hey, sorry, we don't need you, than, at that moment so there's another report that we generated off of our run reports, which basically just shows how many times we gave automatic aid and how many times we received it. I went back and checked 2023 and 2022 just to get a comparison. It's really fairly similar as far as where we probably receive aid just as much as we give it. And again, this is not a state response. We're not reimbursed for this. It just, It also helps us with our ISO rating because we can say, hey, we've got more people coming in on an initial alarm. I mean, it's all a numbers game when it comes to that. That's really what knocks us down in our points the most is, again, we just don't have the manpower that they want. So
for outside the city limits, we used to have a list, or we charged money.
we still
and they
have
you went out
well,
of-
we still
out of-
have fire contracts. If you live, I believe it's 7 miles of. It used to be City Hall because we were right across the street. I don't know if it's from the fire station or City Hall, but if you lived outside of the city limits within, say, 7 miles of the fire department, and you had a house fire, it was, once they called 911, gave the address, they had it in their computer, they would see Coffeyville has a contract, and then they would automatically dispatch the fire department. We would send a 3-person response, that's our minimum response, and then they would also dispatch Deering if it was in their area or district. And then I believe it was a $200 yearly fee, and then there was additional costs on top of that, depending on how many people we sent, how many hours the truck pumped, and it was a little bit more for commercial. So we still have those in place if somebody wishes to do so. That's not a thing that we've gotten rid of. We still have them. And we roughly have, I would say, just off the top of my head, 20 to 25 that are pretty,
Not very many. So what happens if they don't have that in the system?
if they don't have it, then, I mean,
Are you going anyway because
if
of
if we were
automatic?
requested by that department, then yes, we would. But if we weren't requested by them, then no, we wouldn't. So, so if they were in the Deering response area, then yeah, we would go ahead and go anyway because we have that automatic aid agreement with them. I live in the city, so I don't know 100%. I'm just going off what I've been told. But if we just actually had this instance with I don't want to name drop, but he's a commissioner for the county who used to own a store. We have a fire contract with him, and we were actually able to provide information to give to his insurance company that lowered his insurance premiums because we could say, if there was a fire at his location, he's going to have an automatic response of, which that's the big thing with having a fully staffed fire department versus a volunteer department. It doesn't make us any better. We're just there. I mean, that's our job. That's what we're trained to do, and we're there 24/7, so we can just get there a lot faster than what they can. So, yeah, we still have them. Now, if you lived in Tyro or you lived in Tyro or Liberty, and there was a house fire there, and it goes into our 911 center, they're not going to dispatch us unless that department gets on the radio and says, can you dispatch Coffeyville Fire? So, I know it's a lot. Sometimes I'm even like,
There's automatic,
there's
there's
mutual.
mutual, there's the payment, what did we call that one? Where they pay for
Contract.
it?
So the
Contract.
mutual aid is literally, we have a contract, there's a mutual aid contract, and basically the mutual aid contract is just say, hey, if we call the Alec Fire Department, would you mind coming and helping us if you can? But there's nothing that says in writing, oh yeah, we're going to 100%. And even in the ones that are automatic, there's stipulations in the contract that says we will only send people if it doesn't take away from resources in Coffeyville. So we always maintain a minimum 5-man staffing, 24/7, 365. So if we send 3 people out to Deering for a house fire, we call back in 3, so we always have 5. So, we'll never.
So when that happens, we have a cost.
Yes, when that happens, we do have a cost. We have a backfill cost of 3 people roughly that come in. So, but it also, with the cost of, well, I don't want to say the cost, but I mean, there's a cost associated with, Deering coming in to help us on a residential house fire in town that, I mean, they don't have a personnel cost, but you have fuel costs and all. So, I mean, the cost is minimal for no more times than we do it. So, and it's a payoff. I mean, we get a lower ISO rating because we can say we have departments coming in from outside to assist us that adds to our manpower, and so.
I will say something just to, I think eventually will come up if the current trend continues. We talk about on the HR side of things and employment, the trends of generational ideas and thoughts, and we see those affecting how workplaces operate. All these agencies that Chief is talking about are volunteer, and it's getting more and more difficult for them to replace a younger generation in to take over. And as those folks who have been doing this generational and it's a family thing, you're seeing less and less of them coming in. And so it will be interesting to watch. I think Rick Whitson is already pointing that out, talking to commissioners and trying to have the county operate in a way knowing that those things may be coming. That will eventually affect us, and we'll have to work with the county on, what is their response, and are they going to lean on, well, let's see, is Cherryville full-time, or are they part-time as well? It's Independence,
So-
Coffeyville, a mix in
Yes and no.
Cherryville.
Cherryville has a
mix in-
volunteer rule, but they also have a city full-time department that,
Yeah.
so if we call in, let's say we go to a house fire, we send 3 people, we call 3 people back in, you're probably talking roughly $300 is probably what our costs are for personnel to come back in to backfill the station. And you're talking about we might do that, in 2024, we did it roughly 8 or 9 times, which I understand it adds up, but at the same time, it's hard to quantify. For me to put a number on, a lot of times, again, just depending on where it is, if you go east of Walmart, south of Highway 166 to the Oklahoma line, that's Deering's Fire Protection District. So, and again, that's nothing against Deering. Deering has a great fire department, but
That'd take 20 minutes.
it
to
takes,
I was gonna say, that's a
and
long
they
time.
literally come through our city to get there. And there was times where we did not have a good relationship with some of these other departments for whatever reason, I don't know. But there was times where we literally sat at the fire station. They had a house fire that was over that side of town where there was an occupant trapped in the building, and we sat there and listened. And again, that's not a knock on them. That's just, they have to leave their job, their home, go to the fire station, get their truck, whereas we're already there. So it's just made it, if it was something we were doing 100 times a year, I would, be sitting here going, hey, let's try to figure something out. But,
And I think that's what I'm alluding to is in the future, the county is going to have to rely on
Yes.
the full-time firefighters more with
Yeah.
these generational changes, and we'll have to address that. Today, we don't need to.
And that's something that we see too. Before I was hired in Coffeyville, I applied in Edmond, Oklahoma, and there was 1,800 applicants for 8 positions.
Good grief.
That would have been 2007, but that was pre-9/11. Post 9/11. Firefighting was it was the cool, everybody wanted to do it. Now there's literally metropolitan fire departments who years ago you would be put on a waiting list for 10 years before you got hired, who are literally dropping every requirement that they have just so they can fill bodies in fire trucks. Now, they're training them, and they're not bad people, but it's just not the glorified profession that it used to be. And that's the same way with, any public safety. EMS, police, it's just harder and harder to get full-time people that we pay. So to get somebody that says, hey, you want to leave your job and we'll pay you $15, you might be there for 6, people are going, nah, I don't think so, I'll pass. So,
Well, because the issue's been stated, I've been thinking in my head, what is going to happen years later when Deering or Liberty doesn't have the
Yeah.
volunteer? Is the county going to have to basically fund Independence and Coffeyville Fire Department, just take care of the county?
Yeah,
And
and
help
that's-
pitch in for that?
that's something, or, help subsidize, or, pay something, to help augment it,
Yep.
or,
Yeah.
so, anyway, that's basically what it was. There's nothing that needs a motion or anything. It was just more of a discussion. If you guys had any questions on that.
Thanks for
to
the explanation.
Let you know, I said, sometimes the mutual aid, auto aid, I'm even sitting there going, like, man, it's all the apples to apples, so. But anyway, thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Have a good
Mike,
evening.
appreciate it.
Okay. We will have the city manager's report.
Thank you. List of things to go down. Wanted to start with where it is getting out through social media. There was a shooting this morning based on the quick reaction of those police officers. I believe that was actually the night shift that responded. That suspect was quickly put into custody, and we'll continue on through that investigation. But we just want to really, again, appreciate the police force that we have and the quick action they're able to take so that residents can be rest assured we're on the job there. Along with that, also making its rounds on Facebook and other media, and we're having local TV stations reach out to us. The federal agency ICE was in town approximately for 2 days. Questions from the media relates to, were we doing operations with them? What was the level of support? They did come in, and we gave them use of our conference room, and then a holding cell that was used for a few hours. But other than that, we didn't know what specifically they were working on. We were not performing operations with them. Not a lot of details to be shared with us. That is a federal agency doing their federal work. What we can gather, of course, from other press releases and other communities in Kansas where this has been happening and across the country, of course, it would appear that those they're going after have, either criminal action against them or ignoring court dates and things like that. So they did come through. We were not doing operations together. In fact, there are laws that don't allow us to take things to a certain extent. So want to address that again, that the media is reaching out asking us for clarification on those things, and thought I would bring it up this evening. Buckeye and Woodland. Again, Facebook. We learn a lot from Facebook. We have our Rails to Trails program that was going through there. A lot of the comments on there was, well, yes, there's extra flooding because they're not done, and that was correct. There was about an 18-inch temporary pipe put in. That was not enough for the volume of water that came through. As of 3 p.m., I was looking at emails. We've been coordinating this week with our engineer to get those contractors to resolve that. With more expected rain to come, we expect them to put in larger temporary pipes. Part of that plan did include that drainage, but because it was still being worked on, it's just not complete yet. So we are aware of it. The engineers are on that contractor to prepare for future issue there. Also, and this, I got this information last minute, so I'm probably going to get it wrong. Sycamore Creek. Yeah. Sycamore Creek, we've had a few call-ins about Sycamore Creek with some trees down. One of them crosses a sidewalk and kind of goes into the street. We were notified that most of the staff had gone. Didn't feel it was an immediate concern. That will be taken care of first thing in the morning. In relation to the other trees, we do have property owners out there, and we'll be communicating with them. Those are within private property and not something that the city would come in and take care of. The next concern was actually the embankment there with trees falling over. Does that compromise keeping the water out of our streets and flooding folks? That one's a little bit more delicate situation. That is Army Corps of Engineer. The not politically correct way to say is when there's a problem, it's our fault. When it's not, it's their rules and you have to follow them. So we have to navigate that relationship to take care of things. Again, we're on that, trying to understand what obligations we have there, what we can even do, since it is Corps of Engineer. Facebook again, billing. So the folks kept us accountable, and I'm glad they did. I did a follow-up post. Look, we've got a lot of new staff in a lot of different areas, and of course I have pressure on staff to analyze and make sure we're doing things correct. A lot of it is just correcting ordinances and resolutions that we should be following. This was one of those cases. So amazing staff down in utility billing, Tiffany and Lori and Marty running that crew are really on top of it. This was an error on the other end of communication and timeline, and so recognizing that error, we tried to resolve that as quickly as we could. Those folks that were charged a late fee within there, we're creating that as a credit. Of course, you would still be late beyond your normal due date. This is going to come back around. We're going to plan it out a little bit better, better communication, more details on that. It does need to happen. Look, we've in this effort of kicking off rust of several years and trying to loosen things up, the city has nearly $2 million, on the unpaid fee side that has not been taken care of. Some of those folks are gone. Some of them are still around. This isn't just residents. This also moves into commercial. We've been heavily working on the commercial side to match our ordinances. On the residential side, what we found is, for a variety of reasons, it's taking us 9 to 12 days to get mail to people to let them know that they were late, that something was going on. And then oftentimes, with the way the dates are today, by the time that would get to them, they may already be late on 2 months and moving into their third month. So we need to clean that up. One of the ways we're trying to clean that up is our printing company is based out of Joplin, which means we email them, right? They print it all out, they stuff the envelopes, they stamp it, they send it to St. Louis. Takes about 3 days. St. Louis has to send it to Wichita. Takes a few days. Wichita has to send it down to here. And so right now we have found, staff downstairs have found a company in Wichita that can do this at a reduced rate, which is great for us, also a reduced time. So as we put all of these things into motion and play, it's supposed to create some equilibrium in all of this process. Some things that folks haven't seen. Well, we understand that, but we're experiencing problems. Also, we're trying to resolve that for you. So we will do a better job of communicating that. We're getting together a group today and also tomorrow to start planning out how do we better communicate that and move forward in those posts. So. Construction, we had our hospital open house. Many of you were there. We had a great turnout. One of the primary concerns from an individual there was, can we look at an option to do multiple shifts or 24/7? We consulted with our engineer. We went back and forth on those options, and that's not going to be a viable option, but we'll reach out to him and let him know that that was put into play, we went through those details. We were trying to hear the concerns that were there. Most people recognize that there's going to be some frustration with that. They want to make sure that both fire, PD, and EMS are prepared to still deliver service in those areas, which we are. They know it's going to be some inconvenience for several months there. It's going to be a dirty, messy project, but they are looking forward to it. So we're trying to address those concerns as they come out. We're getting closer and closer. In fact, Thomas, I'm writing down dates and now I've got it all scrambled. Both 6th and 7th Street and the hospital, when do we expect to have those go out to bid?
6th and 7th Street, along with a large mill and largely an overlay project. So that'd be 6th, 7th, 1st Street, Buckeye, Woodland, Lee Street, and Stark. Bids are opening on May 7th, and then the bids for all the area around the hospital as well as 4th Street, there from Buckeye to Sycamore Creek, that will be opened on May 21st.
Thank you. So we're moving forward as fast as we can on those. There's going to be a lot of construction this year. I hope we get a lot of rain this year because we need it. On the other hand, that's going to delay things, so I don't want to say out loud we don't want the rain, but it will be interesting here, seeing the rain we've gotten so far, what the rest of the year is going to be like. Downtown grants, the application process has gone through. If you've driven downtown, you'll see that those are actively involved. The floral shop has got a whole new sidewalk in front. A lot of construction going on in downtown based on that sales tax and those grants. So that sales tax is being, the people obviously pay at the pump and everywhere else is being put into play. Some things came up with a non-licensed door-to-door salesperson. I believe it was Vivint. We have made contact, at least a message to that individual to let them know what the rules are in town. And so hopefully that will be resolved if they're going to listen to our calls there. But again, Facebook, and we heard that. We're trying to address those things. Seasonal jobs, temporary jobs are open. Parks Department, pool, golf, our laborers for mowing. We're getting a lot of applicants. I just want to keep saying that out loud. I've seen a lot of high school kids coming through, some college kids, adults looking for seasonal work as they're off of teaching, whatever it may be. Positions are open, actively filling. Please tell your family if they're interested in those. Tennis court construction started Thursday, sort of started, but then today, or this week, you'll see some trenches dug out. We're going through. We're moving a water line. We're putting in electrical. That created some initial angst. I think tennis had just a few weeks left. And we communicated to them, the athletic director of the high school last year, what we anticipated. The company has been delayed because of weather and some other projects. So we anticipated actually closing this sooner. So yes, we shut it down on them. They've been practicing. We were told that they had other areas they could go, not as convenient. So a little bit unfortunate there. I know there's some frustration. We apologize about that, but we're really looking forward to new tennis courts, the addition of pickleball out there. Economic development. Good conversation was brought up last time, and I didn't do it justice to say what is currently going on. So I just wanted to go through some of those things from how we use and interact with MAC, Montgomery County Action Council. Melissa and I have monthly meetings. We've been in several developer meetings, folks coming out here because CVR is here, and because John Deere is here, and because we have property available, because we have our own electricity and water, lots of capacity. So lots of folks are coming out. Most of those are coming through MAC, and Melissa Johnson participates in those meetings with us and really keeps that relationship alive. We do have, of course, quarterly MAC meetings, which you're all welcome to continue to attend. I know several of you have been at those to give updates across the county. We do have quarterly city and county managers meeting. Just had mine, I think it was last week, where we sit and talk about these projects, and the developers are here, how we can work together. We have a special project coming up talking about housing countywide and how we can all partner our resources to, when you can pull a developer in and they can do multiple projects across the county, we can see those costs go down as well. So a lot is happening there. The MAC has, through COVID money, what was that called? ARPA. Through ARPA funds, MAC has money approved for retention bonuses, and so we're tapping in and accessing that program as well. And then certified sites, we're getting really close since I've been here. We've worked on this for about 10 months to having 2 of our own sites, property that we own, certified. Speaking of the Lieutenant Governor, that goes a long way when the state is looking at sites. So that should be wrapping up here very quickly. And then MAC, I think it was actually the end of last year, put on an economic development summit. They had it here at CCC, had some state folks and economic, not engineers, consultants come and talk about the state of Kansas and southeast Kansas. So there is a lot going on from MAC's point of view. I have invited Melissa out. She's been doing recently some presentations at other city commissions, so she will be here the second meeting in May to discuss and share a lot of these things as well. Some of it we have to be careful, so depending on current conversations here in May, we may go to an executive session so we can give you further details on what those conversations are.
Nothing specific pertaining to Coffeyville right now. A lot of conversations, they haven't moved to those next confidentiality steps that usually we take. Changes to, and an email went out today, that you will see, and if you have questions about it, happy to have those conversations. We're trying to take a renewed effort on planning and zoning, so we've made some organizational changes. Our planning and zoning is going to come and fall underneath community development. Building inspector is going to fall under community development as well. That means Amber Dean is going to be taking over as the staff contact for our planning commission. I emailed all those commissioners and CC'd, or blind copied each of you so you could see that. Direction to community development was to start the process of looking at our planning and zoning ordinance and the changes, updates that need to be made there. Comprehensive plan, we're starting with looking at some other cities that have done comprehensive plans, and they've been meeting each of those year objectives and goals. We want a comprehensive plan like that, not one that we've had in the past that's more of a paperweight. And so we've started that process, and that will fall under community development as well. And then finally, under building inspection, we're to start the process of updating our building codes. We fall under the 2018 code. I think we've already implemented a 2022, the country has, if you will. There's already updated plans, and we're behind the eight ball on that, and so moving forward there. The only other thing I wanted to have a quick conversation around, I don't recall, did we talk about Memorial Day on a Monday? So our second meeting in May will fall on the 27th.
Right, it'll fall the day after
after.
Memorial Day. Yeah, and we reached out to the commissioners to get their feedback, so.
And we've got a variety of responses.
We did.
And so if we can come up to a consensus here, options are to still have that meeting the day after Memorial Day. Some folks may be out of town, may not. We can do it the Thursday before. We can still have the meeting, but conversation on what works for all of you and your schedules.
I remember looking at my schedule, and either before or after is fine with me.
Yeah,
I'm good with either.
I'm good with, so either the 22nd or
And our,
the
22nd would be a Thursday
Yeah,
before, yep.
I'm fine with either. I'm going to be here.
and I was gonna be out of town the day after Memorial Day for that meeting, so, but it's up to Commissioner Edwards and Commissioner Faulkner schedule.
I'll have an answer for you tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, so I'm hearing that 22nd is doable, depending on what we hear, so I'll go with 22nd over here, and we'll make sure to get the other commissioners and look at that. We also want to make sure that we're having our appropriate by ordinance quorums in those meetings, so thank you. That's all I have,
That it?
manager's report.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay. Comments from commissioners and staff?
I don't have anything. Covered a lot of stuff already.
I have something that I'm going to read. It's short, but I'd like to, it's what is a model citizen? What do we think of in Coffeyville as a citizen? I've read somewhere that it's someone who actively participates in their community, fulfills their civic duties, and is in an exemplary manner. I would agree. It's also someone who goes to work every day, takes care of their family, takes care of their home, and does their best to do what needs to be done every day. So many times, people in Coffeyville, we don't see those people. They're out there not for their own benefit. They're not necessarily people everyone knows, but they're out there. They're what makes Coffeyville a great city to live in, and we are all very grateful to them. Unfortunately, we lost one of those people this week, and I'm going to try to get through this. A man who many knew, but many did not. A godly man who loved his wife, his children, and his grandchildren. He was there for them and there for others. He actively participated in everything their kids did, and he was active in his work, his church, and his home. He impacted many people he would never realize he had impacted. He loved life and lived it to the fullest, and we need more people like that in our lives. You will be greatly missed, Jason Watson, Jenny, and your children and your grandchildren. The city commends you, and we pray for you, and we're sorry for your loss. Thank you.
He was awful young,
He was 40,
49.
49.
Yep.
We will now move to an executive session to discuss confidential data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships, and executive session to discuss matters deemed privileged and in the attorney-client relationships.
I believe the attorney-client relationships can be 10 minutes. I'd suggest 20 for the others, so a total of 30 minutes.
Total
for
of
those
30
two.
minutes?
Okay.
Second?
Okay, so do you want to return at 9:10?
10.
Okay. Motion is made by Mayor Maples, seconded by Commissioner Edwards to recess to executive session for two purposes. First, to discuss confidential data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships as permitted by KSA 75-4319B4 of the Open Meetings Act to include the city attorney, city manager, director of finance, and representatives from CRMC for a period of 20 minutes. Second, for consultation with the city attorney regarding matters that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship as permitted by KSA 75-4319B2 to include the same persons for a period of 10 minutes to reconvene in the commission room at 9:10 p.m. Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Start this meeting.
Okay, we will reconvene, and no action was taken.
Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Motion is made by Mayor Maples, seconded by Vice Mayor Van Oster to adjourn. Can I see a show of hands? Thank you.
Do we have that other meeting?
We do.
The one for the foundation.
Yes, sorry.
To order.
Okay, sorry.
She's ready to go.
I was ready to go. Okay. All right, I'm going to call the Board of Directors meeting of the Coffeyville Community Enhancement Foundation to order for Tuesday, April 22nd. I will move to approve the minutes of the February 28th, 2023 Foundation meeting.
And I'll second them.
Motion is made by Director Maples, seconded by Director Van Oster to approve the minutes of the February 28th, 2023 Foundation meeting. Director Edwards.
Aye.
Director Hendricks.
Aye.
Director Van Oster.
Aye.
And Director Maples.
Aye. Okay, Resolution R-25-01, a resolution to designate individuals as officers of the Coffeyville Community Enhancement Foundation, Incorporated. City Clerk Melissa Carter will make comments.
Yeah, so due to changes in personnel and changes with the Board of Directors, new officers need to be appointed for the foundation. Proposed officer appointments are as follows. Board Chairman would be Deborah, Vice Chairman Anne Marie, President would be Ben, Vice President would be Marty, Secretary myself, and then our Treasurer would be Toby Hunt. And we recommend, these appointments just to keep in accordance with Article 3 in the sections of the Coffeyville Community Enhancement Foundation adoption.
I'll move to approve Resolution R-25-01 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Director Van Oster, seconded by Director Edwards to approve Resolution R-25-01 as presented. Director Hendricks.
Aye.
Director Van Oster.
Aye.
Director Maples.
Aye.
And Director Edwards.
Aye.
Okay. Resolution R-25-02, a resolution to reallocate funds designated for the PD Explorers Program for General Police Department use and to authorize disbursement of the General Police Department funds for the purchase of fleet vehicles. Director of Finance Martin Cummings will make comments.
Historically, as you were all aware, the PD Explorer program has ceased for some time. After a conversation with Quinn, there is nothing in the near-term horizon to restart that program. My understanding is it has something to do with the Boy Scouts of America. There's just not a big move for that kind of thing at this point. And so currently, there is an allocation in the foundation of $1,330.22 allocated for that program. We are asking that the Board of Directors approves that to be reallocated for general police use. So in addition with that, that we want to kind of roll in with that. The police department does have scheduled vehicle purchases shortly to come this year. Due to changes being made by their current vendor, what they have budgeted is going to be short of what it's actually going to cost to replace those vehicles, about $6,000 per vehicle. Okay. By adding these Explorer program funds to what is currently allocated for general police use, we will have a combined total of $9,458.22 that we would like the board to approve for the use in assisting with the budget shortfall that's created by these new expenditures. I want to make it clear this is specifically for the purchase of these vehicles. It's not for general operations or anything else. So we do, in the resolution, we do ask that we have the option to either expend the money directly from foundation, or to reimburse the city its costs. So it just kind of depends on how convenient that is to do. My preference is that we expend it directly from the foundation so as to not create any kind of additional budgetary issues that we're going to have to resolve later in some kind of a budget amendment. However, that may not be possible depending on how the vendors prefer their payment, and that may not be convenient to the way they want to invoice us. Our recommendation is obviously to approve this resolution and authorize the disbursement of these funds. Any questions on the matter?
Move to approve Resolution R2502 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Director Edwards, seconded by Vice Chairman Van Oster to approve Resolution R-25-02 as presented. Vice Chairman Van Oster.
Aye.
Chairman Maples.
Aye.
Director Edwards.
Aye.
Director Hendricks.
Aye.
Okay, Resolution R-25-03, a resolution to authorize the disbursement of $5,655.62 to aid the fire department in the purchase of computer tables for its mobile responders. Director of Finance Martin Cummings will make comments.
Recently, the foundation received a donation of $5,000 from Capture Point LLC. It's a company out of Texas that Fire Chief Mike O'Connor was working with, and they agreed to make a donation to the city, specifically to the fire department through our nonprofit, and earmarked it for the purchase of these computer tablets. There is already a small sum of $655.62 allocated for general fire department use. This money will cover, this combined total of $5,655 will cover approximately 28% of the total purchase needed to cover these tablets. They are not your typical computer tablet. These are tablets specifically designed for mobile responders. There's some communication doodads and gizmos and whatnots associated with it that I couldn't comment on intelligently, but you will probably be hearing from Michael O'Connor as a resolution to approve the purchase of those here before too long. In any case, to aid the city in that purchase, we would ask that the board approve the disbursement of the money in a similar fashion that we've asked for the PD.
But to get the tablets, we'd have to pitch in another 15,000 approximately.
Yeah, that's like I
And
said,
that's-
that's why I'm looking for ways to help offset that cost.
Okay, I get it.
Mike has been very, very clear with me that these are going to aid them greatly in the way they dissect and handle communication and information in the field. Again, I don't want to put words in his mouth as particulars because I'm a firefighter.
Yeah, there's other grant funds as well that's trying to be utilized for these, so this would just aid in that since that money is already set aside for
We've
fire
got money
use.
in that department in the last few months, haven't we?
Yeah, quite, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, I will move to approve Resolution R-25-03 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Vice Chairman Van Oster, seconded by Chairman Maples to approve Resolution R-25-03 as presented. Chairman Maples.
Aye.
Director Edwards.
Aye.
Director Hendricks.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Van Oster.
Aye.
Resolution R-25-04, a resolution to authorize the expenditure of funds for a subscription to QuickBooks Online not to exceed $500 per year. Director of Finance Martin Cummings will make comments.
Yep.
Historically speaking, the foundation has done their bookkeeping solely within spreadsheets that were maintained solely for bank reconciliation purposes. I think it goes without saying the proper bookkeeping system is needed to better track donations and expenditures. It's also necessary to have a conventional accounting of the foundation in an audit or other review. Don't ask me the likelihood of one of those happening. I don't know. I just know that the second I assume it doesn't happen, it's going to happen. So, the ability to readily generate financial statements is also important for oversight. And so,
Sounds good to me. Move to approve Resolution R2504 as presented.
I'll second.
Who am
Motion
I to
is
say
made by
no?
Director Edwards, second by Vice Chairman Van Oster to approve Resolution R-25-04 as presented. Director Edwards.
Aye.
Director Hendricks.
Nay.
Vice Chairman Van Oster.
Aye.
And Chairman Maples.
Aye.
Move to adjourn.
I will second.
Motion is made by Director Edwards, seconded by Chairman Maples to adjourn. Can I see a show of hands? Thank you.
3 hours of questions.